Hello, ladies and gents. Please like, comment, subscribe. First, I want to give a big ups to Miss Marianne. She was the, Bahamian woman who got screwed over due to the Fyre Festival. She was the one in charge of that bar and grill that a lot of the attendees went to, and then she also had a lot of workers. She was bringing in local people to go and help work and set everything up. She said that she had to, out of her own savings, take out $50,000, essentially all of her savings, to pay the people because she was responsible for them. And among other things, because I think the number actually ended up being close to 100,000 when you include everything, all the foolishness and shenanigans, which I'll go over quickly. Because so the GoFundMe for her, it's raised already $145K, and I'm so glad that people showed up and showed out for her, because that was just disgusting. And realistically, even with a lawsuit, she probably would have never seen that money, because old dude is broke. Billy is broke. He's being sued up the wazoo. He was trying to figure out what money does he actually have and what money doesn't he have. It's that serious and it's that bad. Now, I watched both documentaries. I made sure to watch both. I made sure to give my mind some time to process it all, because it was a lot. It was a lot. But I feel like the Netflix one felt more like a regular movie. I felt like the Hulu one felt more real. The Netflix one, I felt like I was kind of watching a movie, and the Netflix one, the Hulu one, I felt like it was a little bit more real. I'll say that because of some differences. The Hulu one, which came out first, which was smart for them to do, it came out first, and the big thing about that is they actually had Billy. Before Billy went to jail, because he ended up going to jail for 6 years, a minimum of 6 years. Well, probably a maximum of 6 years, let's be real. He was there. He was dodging questions like I figured he would. And Ja Rule, they didn't have much footage of Ja Rule. The Netflix one had footage of Ja Rule, and I think it was being produced by the F. Jerry social media company that was in charge of marketing the Fyre Festival. Now, I do remember when this happened, because I remember seeing the logo on Instagram and on Twitter. I was like, what is this? And I said, okay, an expensive festival on some remote island. Cute, great, beautiful gowns. That's not for me. The festival life isn't for me anyway, so something like that wasn't going to appease me. Now, when I saw the meltdown, like a lot of people, I was also like, to be honest, I cannot pretend like I was super nice. I cannot pretend like I was super nice and super accommodating for people who were there. Especially that infamous tweet of the, what was that? Ham and cheese on white bread sandwich. The FEMA tents. Yes. So this festival, the reason why it is essential from both documentaries, the reason why it went to hell in a handbasket was Billy, he was doing a lot. His goal was to try and capitalize on the fact that his company, his main company, Max is something. It was this New York-based credit card company that was essentially trying to make credit cards cool. It apparently worked. He also had this clubhouse that was essentially like a loft or a penthouse that members could use and socialize in, and it worked for a little bit, but then he realized, okay, this isn't working like I thought it would, so he eventually transitioned onto something new. He figured, why don't we throw like the biggest cultural event of his generation? Originally, that wasn't the case. Originally, he was working on an app, the Fyre app. The Fyre app was supposed to be an app where you could book talent, or to be specific, artists and celebrities. So whether it's influencers, models, singers, dancers, you name it. You could actually go to this one centralized app, which now apparently Ja Rule has one called Icon, which I'm thinking, how in the world after people seeing... Because Ja Rule downplayed his... But let me do this stage by stage. The app was supposed to do what I said it was. He needed funding to go and really bring awareness to the app. He thought, why not do a festival? And when I say he, it wasn't originally his idea. I think someone else brought it up. I forgot exactly who, because it's been, it's been a couple of days since I watched the documentaries. But it was brought up that why don't we do a festival? At the time, no one thought anything of it. And then Billy said, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Now, normally a festival like that would take a year, even in a proper venue. But going on a remote island without centralized plumbing, as well as security, staff, all of that, it would take at least 18 months to get clearances, to get all of that. He was trying to do it in a couple of months. To make matters worse, he secured an island that was supposedly originally owned by, Pablo Escobar, and there was an agreement that Billy wouldn't market it that way, but he did. So then they lost that island. So then he was trying to find islands, but it's a long process. He found an island that really was actually a part of, I think, the Sandals, like the other side of the Sandals in Bahamas or something like that. And his marketing team made it look like it was a remote island that wasn't a part of anything. And so that was one of the scams. Another one of the scams was things weren't ready. People were working really hard, but the time frame was so ridiculous that he was selling things that they did not have. They did not have luxury tents. They did not have luxury villas. They did not have that. What they were doing was they were going around to people's houses and saying, look, we'll pay you this amount if you give us your house for a certain period of time, like an Airbnb situation. There were some luxury villas, but there was a smaller amount than what he was paying. But he kept getting backed up financially, that he kept over-promising and under-delivering. So he kept going to his investors. He kept going. In the Hulu one, I think it showed that he was forging documents and all of this, forging documents and wire transfers and all of that. And no one was getting paid. Artists who originally signed up because they thought, oh, okay, they only did it. Let's be clear. They only initially signed up for something they never heard of because they were getting booked for double their rate. That alone made people nervous and wonder, wait, what's going on? So some artists did go and check things out. And again, Ja Rule, he knew that things weren't going well. I think that he was being told that, hey, don't listen to anyone else. It will work out. You know how sometimes these things, it takes time to get off the ground running. But let's be very clear. Let's just say hypothetically, he didn't realize how bad things were until it happened. Afterwards, in the Netflix one, we saw that he actually said out of his mouth, because one of the staff from the Fyre app staff said, don't you feel like we should just go and tell the truth? And people were scammed out of their money. It was false advertising. It wasn't lie. It was a lie. And then he said something to the effect of, oh no, we didn't lie. We didn't take people's money. We didn't do this or that. No, I think he said it was false advertisement instead of something that sounded worse, which was crazy. And now, like I said, Ja Rule partnered up with someone else to essentially take the concept of the Fyre app, and now it's called Icon. You can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. We saw that he was there when they were doing the initial marketing and promotion, and how quickly they were getting that stuff out, which was, insane, because they were in the middle of nowhere as far as communications were concerned. And they paid all of these influencers to go and post the stuff, which is fine because they thought it was real. Everyone thought it was real. There was no reason for them not to believe that it was not real or that it wasn't going to happen. So all the influencers around the same time were posting, and it got so much attention. Like I said, I remember that. People were buying these crazy packages, and what they were really buying, like I said, was FEMA tents, mattresses that were not even raised, mattresses that were on the floor, essentially. The festival got rained out the night before, so any work that they actually did, the tents were destroyed. When people got there, because we saw from a bunch of influencers and even some regular people, they were like, oh, this is something new, we want to be a part of this. And some of the influencers, thankfully, they had good accommodations, but that was only a very minute amount. Everyone else, they got there and they got on this bus. First, they were taken to Marianne's Bar and Grill so that they could get drunk, because they paid a lot of money for the alcohol. That was one thing that was there. And then in the Netflix one, it was crazy because one of the guys who was a part of the staff was told the water is stuck in customs. So we need you to go to customs and suck off the guy who's in charge so that he can release the water. I said, wait, what? And apparently it was true. The guy didn't do it. But the guy said he actually prepared himself mentally and physically to have to do something like... I said... Okay. I see what we're doing here. And I don't like it. I see what we're doing here and I don't like it. That's what I had to tell myself, because I'm thinking, excuse me? You want him to do what? And you said this in the... Okay. But yeah, Billy, his imagination was larger than life. The messed up part about all of this is all of the workers who worked really hard, and I'm sure were having mental breakdowns doing all this stuff. They didn't get paid because once it went to hell in a handbasket, you know, the main people ran off, and the local managers they either had to run themselves or had to pay the people out of their own money. And they were never recouped. Part of the way how this whole thing came out, period, prior to the festival, was there was this financial advisor who was looking into this and realized that this doesn't make sense. And the more he looked into it and he talked to some of his clients, he told them, hey, don't pay them yet. Do not pay them yet, because there's something wrong there. And thankfully, the people he was working with, they didn't do it. I think he was working with like Comcast or like huge organizations that of course wanted to sponsor this thing because it's something new, if you can get in the ground running. And like I said, if Billy paced himself and did it differently, it could have worked, because he conned people out of so much money. They were paying all this money for the stuff that was not there. $50,000, $250,000 for a villa. I think it was like $100,000 for a yacht. Right. Because one guy, I forgot which documentary, said, maybe it was the Netflix one, said that, why don't we get a cruise ship? Because realistically, the island cannot even house all of these people. Why don't we get a cruise ship? What's going on with security? You know, the proper codes for the staging. What's going on with that? Where are the people really going to sleep? Because once they got there, it was every man, woman, child for themselves. People were taking other people's tents, taking the beds, taking the supplies. People had to go and find their own luggage. People were having nervous breakdowns. People were scared. It was completely pitch black. They better be very thankful that there weren't, because I didn't hear this, that there weren't like sexual assault cases that were coming out of that, because you never know what could have happened to those people. You got them liquored up, dehydrated, and didn't have proper security or housing for them. Do you realize how much worse it could have been? How much worse it could have been. And like I said, obviously, first and foremost, I feel bad for the islanders who were working on that and still didn't get paid to this day. I feel bad for the people who were working for the company originally and said, wait, we're asking regular questions, good questions, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? What is this about? What is that about? And they got let go because they were asking too many questions. And Billy was the type where if you didn't just blindly follow his lead, he easily would go and say, okay, so I guess you don't need to be here. I guess you don't need to be a part of this. I guess you can leave. It's fine. If you don't want to do this the way that we need you to do this, then you can go. That's how he was. Including, I forgot who the guy who was his right-hand man, who everyone agreed that he had a terrible attitude and he was just doing the most. So far, he didn't get in as much trouble, but so obviously I blame Billy and that other guy the most, because then after all of that said and done, he's being sued for that. Then he goes and remember, he now has a list and contact information for all of these people who signed up for the app. Because what I forgot to also mention was, in order to raise more funds, he had the people prepay, which that's not uncommon. That's not the first time that happened. But when you go to certain festivals, you can prepay because a lot of times phone connectivity is very limited. That many people in a small area, very limited. And so in order to pay for things, a lot of them don't use regular cash. You can use a wristband, for example, and the wristband will allow you to pay for everything you need to pay for. The problem is that Billy he was saying like a $3,000 minimum because of just the general expenses, all that. So mind you, a lot of people were paying at least the minimum. Who knows if that was the initial cap? 3,000 or more. He was like 3,000 to 5,000 should be the average. That's how crazy this festival was. People were asking for flight information. They weren't getting it. They were hitting up the social media and their comments were getting deleted because it was bad marketing promotion. They were getting potentially sued. All before the festival began. It was an ish show. People couldn't get flights back because the airports weren't ready. The customs, like the Hulu one, went into more depth about what actually happened there. With customs, they had to get on the plane, off the plane. They had to get locked in the airport. People were dehydrated, starving. It was, like I said, they better be thankful no one died. There weren't sexual assault. They better be thankful. And then he sold the list to this other company who was actually, we found out was him. It was New York. It was like New York Undercover or Nightlife, something. And all the Fyre Festival attendees were getting calls and emails saying that, you can get tickets to the Met Gala. You cannot buy tickets to the Met Gala. To the Grammys, you can't buy tickets to the Grammys. It's just... And him and this other guy was doing that. Once a scammer, always a scammer. Once a booster, always a booster. And he was still in this penthouse in New York. And I'm just like, oh God, this dude, when will he stop? But then he went to jail. And it was interesting seeing the standpoint from his staff. Because the staff was just like, we were doing jobs that we didn't know what to do, how to do. One guy was booking artists. He's never done anything like that. And that's why the artists were getting these ridiculous fees, because he had no experience. It was just like, okay, whatever we want to pay, we'll pay. I think that in total, the festival for the first year was going to cost close to $40 million. Because he didn't have his shit together and he was trying to do it quickly just so that the app could launch sooner rather than later. All I have to say is that both documentaries were good. You definitely need to carve some time out to watch them because it's documentary, so it's not like an hour long. I think both were like almost 2 hours, or at least a minimum of an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. But they were both good. Like I said, I feel like the Hulu one was a little bit better because it got more of the backstory and different things that were going on. It actually had him there, so there was a certain level of accountability. The F. Jerry one, to me, was more so just like entertainment. It did provide new information. It had different people. It had more of the Fyre, the Fyre app staff. So if you're more so interested in seeing the people that had to work very closely with him, then look at that. But that's it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Thanks. All in all, don't be out here doing stuff like that. There are better ways to do it. And he could have.